Hi everybody, today we are going to talk about buildings, how to use it, how to place it, but before that I want to show you something. I already know this is going to happen at some point, and this is about our save. In base folder here we have our save map, fake map, and as you see here I have two sectors. My map is just in this one, but what about this one? Well, from time to time, I already know that and see that many times, the editor is gonna save a ghost sector. This sector is empty, and before you are gonna transfer your save to your mod folder, please check to transfer just your sector or sectors if you have more than one, and don't transfer these ghost sectors also, because you are going to create problems in other maps, because this sector maybe it's used in other maps as a good sector with cities, roads, and so on. You don't need to overwrite that useful sector from other map with your ghost sector. So please be sure when you transfer your work, first thing to do is to delete this and transfer just your work. Even more important, before you are going to release your map, check twice for this. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing about this terrain here, I forgot to tell you, you can connect two pieces by these nodes, like in road case, using the green one and the red one to connect it, and I'm gonna show you. Divide again, I'm not using the mouse movement because I'm gonna break the altitude of the terrain, so I'm using just the arrows, and I'm using the mouse just to connect these pieces of terrain. And now as you see, you can call your girlfriend and tell her you have a hill made it by you. Another thing you need to know, here we have placed a piece of terrain to close this gap, and I'm gonna show you a better way to do this, because I forgot to tell you something in the last video. I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna press 6 and E and click, and I'm gonna place a bezier patch. Why is better way to place a bezier patch? Because I forgot to tell you, the bezier patch doesn't have boundaries, so is not creating any invisible walls, no matter its placement. Our hill here, on the other hand, if you view collisions, you are gonna see these two rows two rows of invisible walls. In this case, it's inoffensive because we are not going to drive the truck here. Okay, let's get to the buildings. Buildings in Map Editor are basically a row of something. Electrical power, fences, noise wall, vegetation, and so on. Railings. I said that before, no? Okay. Barriers. So for example, this is an example of a building, a row of concrete blocks. But as you see, this node here, it's to the ground level, and this node here also to the ground level, but in the middle we have flying concrete blocks. How can we fix this? It's remember moving by mouse. If you are moving by arrows, you're gonna keep this straight line, but if you are going to move this by mouse, all the road is gonna snap to the ground. So now we don't have flying concrete blocks anymore, we have something normal. If you want to adjust this to be on the middle of the road, you have to create you have to divide it in many points, but as you see, a problem already occur here when we divide this, and our row of concrete blocks now is broken. How we are gonna fix this? We are gonna select all, and we are going to properties and reset offsets, and OK. And as you see, we have our row again straight as it was before. Now we are gonna try to place by mouse this to the ground, and already this one is again broken. Properties, reset offsets, OK. Properties, reset offsets, OK. Move. And as you see, it's a tricky way to do it, but now it's placed. I did this, on purpose to see how hard it is to work with this buildings, because using more than one node is going to create a ton of problems. So if we start with the first one and going to the last one, everything should be okay. Another thing about the shape of the terrain. Let me place a fence here to see what I'm going to place a wall because it's bigger. Okay, we have this. place it here, and another one, place it here. Okay, this side has flat terrain, this side has bumpy terrain. If you move this by arrow, you are gonna keep your fence, your wall straight. If you move this by mouse, the wall is gonna take the shape of the terrain. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. In this case, if I move it by mouse, because the terrain is flat, the wall is gonna stay also straight, even if we have altitude difference like here, and you see this. Move it my mouse and the wall is gonna borrow the shape of the terrain and is gonna look normal, not like this one. Another thing you can do, but as you see, the properties of the buildings are not so complicated. We have just water reflection, ignore cut planes, and I am repeating myself. We are going to talk about cut planes, no collision, and no shadows, no mirror reflection. No collision, if you have this enabled. Where is it? This one is. It has a red axis here, and if you have an accident or decided to leave the road, you are gonna go through this wall like this wall is not even here, so you are not gonna hit this wall because it has no collision, and you are gonna go straight in this field with no problems. If this is not checked, this wall is gonna be a solid obstacle in front of you, a solid wall, and you are gonna hit your truck in it. No shadows, there is no shadows for the tree, or no mirror reflection. You're not gonna see this wall in the mirrors, but this one, no shadows and no mirror reflection. I don't know if you are gonna use this. It's better to know if you are gonna use no collision, ignore cut planes, and water reflection. Let's place another type of buildings here, a vegetation one, 3E, and let's look for narrow tree. For example, we are gonna place it here. We are gonna make it to snap to the ground. Okay. And usually the vegetation have no problem with terrain shape, because these are just trees. And as you see, snapping to the ground is gonna look okay for vegetation building. If in some cases, if you are gonna use the arrows to place this, and there is an altitude difference, you're gonna have some flying tree here. But if you move my mouse and snap it to make the building to snap to ground. Okay, these three are gonna look okay. In this case, we have too many little trees. If you want to make this line to have more trees than usual, and this is working with every building, let's press properties, and if you increase this, let's say 3, as you see, the building is going to use less models than usual, 4 times less models, 6 times less models, 8 times less models. So from this we got to this. But let's say you want even more models to have here. To do that, you are gonna need to go below 1, 0.5, and we have even more models, or 0.2. Okay, this is a feature working with any kind of building. Let's do this with 3, 7, and you see the whole line has just 2 trees, or 0.2, and you're gonna have a bunch of trees here. You can use this with fences. Let's find 3E, some wooden fence here. This one, for example. Move. Okay, properties. You can have this. Not looking very good, but you can have this. So you can do this with any building. Another type of building are the ground one. Let's say 3E stripe. You can place, you have a concrete stripe here. Move with my mouse is gonna take the shape of the road. In this case, we have here a very bumpy ground, so placing this to create a sidewalk is not a good idea, just because. Placing this, move. Here, it's a good idea because we have a straight, flat terrain. This grass is not going to look very well in this sidewalk, but we have a cure for that. Remember, we are talk about it, properties, and this land, it's on the left side. We are gonna push the detailed grass a little bit further than the center of the road, so our grass is going AWOL and leave our sidewalk look nice and fresh. You can also divide this by middle mouse, move it, divide it again, move it. And even connect it, and here we go. You have here a nice surrounding for placing animals, not houses. Let's find the cow. Lean. Okay, so everything it's looking okay. I don't have many things to talk about buildings, because as you see, the buildings properties are not so rich in options. I have, let me show you something. 3E, let's go, north vegetation, 3 walls. I'm gonna place a wall made it by 3. This is usually used to mask, to hide margins and so on. And if we are going here, it's a very low quality, so don't place this near to road. This is meant to be used far from the road. Let's make it snap to the ground. Okay. And as you see, the sooner you divide this, here it's a problem. Like in our building, our barrier in the street. So everything is okay, but if we pass in the other side, there is no tree wall, because this one is visible just from one side. And if you place this in the wrong way, you're not gonna see anything, but it's gonna be seen from the wrong side. So keep in mind and place this as it should be, as you intend, and to be visible. And the last thing I'm going to tell you, not the last, I'm going to show you also something else. I remember things as I'm talking. Let's take this one and place it here, because this row it's very short. You gonna see here that something is missing in the end. So some fences need a greater distance to be complete, and now it's complete. It's closed in both sides. If you are gonna use a small fence, be sure to cover his endings, because it's looking very bad like this. If you place another fence here, you can mask it with this one. I have snap to node and snap to vertices enabled. If I'm gonna I'm trying to connect these two nodes, but for now it's not working. Sometimes when you connect these two nodes, is gonna be one curved, like in this case, fence. So we don't need that. Many times, in many situations, I'm gonna untie this. Shift, click. If you have to connect two pieces of the fence, to avoid the situation of these nodes to come together, you we'll need to disable snap to nodes, and now you can work with these ends very well without making it to snap to the nodes. Okay, that's it about buildings. Keep in mind some of them has invisible walls, mostly railings are creating a supplementary invisible wall. But as I said, when you finish your work, check your collision window from here and see if you have any additional invisible walls. That's it for today. Have a nice day. Bye bye.